Good evening. My name is Friar Luciano. I come from Brazil, but at the moment I'm living in Portugal. I will try to communicate in Spanish. Thank you for being here. What gathers us today is today's spirituality. We live in a world, such a confusing world, very conflicted, that it's needed to search for something else from everything that's going on. Let's talk a little bit about that, and at the end, as the brother said, we will open for questions. The word spirituality today has a very ample possibility of comprehension, from practices, exercises, states of consciousness, phenomena, external situations. For each one of us, eventually represents something different. At this time of the world, what is important so that we can enjoy that which lives already inside of us? Because when we talk about spirituality, our mind, something in us, thinks about a religion, a group, a mystic group, an occult group, or for practices, or simply exercises. But there's something in common. What is there in common in all this search? If we can reach that healthy concern, sometimes it's for tiredness, or through an aspiration of getting to know something else. If we can observe our own process, we can identify that there's moments when we search this because of tiredness, because we hit so many closed doors and we couldn't find anything, or because sometimes we had an aspiration to get to know ourselves a bit better, and from that place of the search, of this healthy search, we started this process. And there is this question, who am I? How do I identify myself? When I observe myself and I speak, from where does it come from? Comes from myself? From me and from something else beyond? What happens to me is only to me, or with something else beyond this person that I identify as myself? That starting point is important because from that place, from that perspective, from where we start, the path will come, the trajectory that corresponds to us. Considering that, in general, we do not have a formation of our being, of our global being, or whole being, as we wish to say. In general, our personality in our bodies, which we see, are very prominent and direct our identity, our experience. We base everything in truth, in the relationship between us, between myself, and what happens around me. But can it be that there's not something else beyond that? Could it be that in a certain moment I have a feeling that there's something else that is also me and part of me? With which frequency or dedication or level of aspiration this moves me? Especially in this age of technology, where we very rapidly see how it expands. We have a gigantic quantity of information, true? Very in many frequencies, in many vibrations. And not only for the human egoic and bodily, but also for that which is called mystic and spiritual. This is how daily, if we wish, we can come in contact with hundreds and impulses of schools and practices, promises, conquests, and many times very accessible, like trying to fish to bring our consciousness after some sort of gratification. But that which is in our deep, does it depend on it? From something that comes from outside of us? And how do we, each one of us, has filtered or discerned what truly corresponds to us? Because otherwise it's like a type of self-service where there are lots of options and we try many things, but we do not serve ourselves from that which is very necessary for us. And with so much mystic information, or spiritual or supraphysical, so different, we think it's important. We try to see where that this search comes from and what can help us to filter a little bit more this, and maybe to start to find an answer that is a little bit more lengthwise, not only a gratification which is immediate, but something that is a type of practice that is also necessary. We're not denying it, the importance of it, but how do we sustain that which we are finding? We have asked, where does the origin of our experience come from, of what we live? Who or what organizes it? Is it in the invisible? Do we have control over it? When we try to have control, what was the result? And when we open to interact with what that we live and experiment, that includes that even we attract, what was the result of that as well? For every normal human being, we say normal as a simple human being, we are searching for a sense, for something that fills us inside and that can project our movement to the external life that coincide with this inner process. And do we have the answers today? What is the sense of our life for us? Everything that we have experienced of spirituality has nurtured us, has fed us in a certain way. Is it enough? Beyond the process of our bodies, because, see, as I said, we do not have a basic education of how we are conformed and what exists in our inner. Here we think of our physical bodies, but surely each one of us is feeling something, is thinking about something, but that we cannot see. So we each feel, we perceive it, we use it even, our emotions, our mind, but we can't see it. It's invisible for us, for our physical eyes, and for our constitution. And from what we can call classical spirituality, we also have subtle bodies, beyond our mind, beyond our emotions. We have more elevated bodies, more spiritual. The first body, more spiritual, is what we call the anemic body, our soul. That is the first nuclei, the first that is really immaterial on the fourth dimension, that is with us, we do not have to do any practice to discover it. And that's good news. We don't have to take a workshop to actually discover what is within us. When I selected this topic of spirituality of today, I was trying to simplify a little bit so that our search did not become dispersed or lost in the midst of so many external elements that without a doubt can be a help for this central point, but not always, and sometimes almost never, take us to that aspect of our interior life. And I could ask, yes, but where is it? Another good news. It's not only inside of us, but it is closer. It's closer to us from each one of us than me to you. It is already within us. And how can we eventually get to that? We have 2 sharings recorded on the channel of Irdin Press, which is Be Still, Part 1 and Part 2. And there, we deepened a little bit more this topic, including an exercise that I will repeat here today, and I will add another practice for the evening, where we collaborate in the process of stillness. Not the type of stillness that we will become unmovable or to stop having contact or to search for a place of withdrawal from the rest of people or becoming withdrawn from life, but to search the stillness from that which does not correspond to us. Is different, isn't it? Try to find a place within us and we stop doing that which does not correspond to us. Sometimes there's, yes, but I don't know what I have to do. I agree 100%. But maybe we will also agree that we already know what we do not have to do. And if we can remove from our horizon what we do not have to do, indirectly, we will gather our consciousness around that which is essential. And from there, sooner or later, the same interior world that we are talking will come to our encounter. Why? We are not communicating more with it because we're not giving it space the whole time. In Brazil, we say, Ciscar, that we are searching in many places. We search many things, but we do not listen inside of us what truly we need to search for. That's from starters. Starts by stop doing that which does not correspond to you. Experience it. And reduce gradually that which is not truly essential. And you will see how from our inner emerges a state of consciousness that will look in the perspective, not only the mind, not only emotions, but something that is born from within and starts looking from a different place. And from this other place, starts to conduct this search of spirituality. And again, is already within us. The truth is that we don't give it space. We don't give it any time. Unfortunately, there is a way of thinking, of understanding, that a type of practice, a type of spiritual practice, is going to fill up that space that it belongs to our more profound consciousness. Any spiritual practice, including prayer, meditation, it serves, and it's very good, to discipline our bodies, to let them get used to being under a vibration. Are you understanding my Spanish? Thank you, you're very generous. So to create a condition of alignment, so that the bodies start getting used to getting still and to start elevating the frequency. But if we observe the proportion of time that we apply in a certain practice all the time in our daily lives. Obviously, our daily life occupies a lot of time, a lot more time. So why do we not transform our daily life into our spiritual process? We ask that because it's not just to have that moment of concentrated practice, but why? If I am on the street, if I'm on a bus, if I'm on the metro, doing what I need to do in my daily life, why I cannot be with my consciousness, turn to that which is essential, and observing my inner world? From a certain point of view, that corresponds to a true liberation, because especially what we call spirituality today, we're always inviting for something external, for a practice, a new technique, a guru that has just arrived from Himalaya, somebody who comes with new information. But is that truly is when it's going to take my consciousness to that which I need to know of who I am? Is it that knowledge and information is taking me to that self-knowledge? I ask myself, but why do I have to get to know myself? Do we have the aspiration of knowing a little bit more why we're here? To get to know whether we actually had some sort of commitment on a social level or also on a spiritual level? Do we feel truly that our life has a sense, a feeling? Can we affirm if my life has a spiritual sense? Everything that we already came into contact with, information and impulses, practices, so many things. That classic spirituality has been blinded for humanity, and today again has taken us to a place a little bit more lucid of self-knowledge? Or are we only mentally repeating knowledge, but we do not know ourselves? And the distance between knowing ourselves and having information, we can even measure the distance. And so when a challenge comes in a loss, infirmity, in an illness, in something unexpected, a certain impact inside of us or outside of us, how do I relate to that? Is there, as everyone does, as the collective? Or do I feel that my called spiritual work keeps me in a bit of a margin between the reaction? Can I observe that and give a space to understand it in a deeper way? Or do I immediately involve myself emotionally and I lose perspective? As we said in the beginning, there are many things that are called spiritual. And in truth, they're just practices. They're exercises that normally collaborate and a lot for the discipline of our bodies and naturally for their well-being, without any doubt. But are we only searching a well-being on a physical level, or are we searching a level of spirituality that eventually opens a horizon of self-understanding a bit more deep? What are we searching at the end? In this context, the spirituality of today for us is to live a profound transformation, to mature in our discernment, and especially something very difficult that we can experiment daily, which is to persist. When we do not persist, it appears that it almost became a mechanism So we desist, we don't persist, and immediately after they offer us something new. So we don't filter the discernment. No, it becomes so many options. It's like a salad with so many things. We have to try it all, and then we don't have to transform. So then they offer us a practice that comes with a little gift, the gratification, something that actually is temporary. And when it finishes, where is my consciousness? Can I overcome the trial of daily life, the challenges from that spirituality? So, spirituality, in our understanding, needs to fortify our profound transformation, to collaborate with the maturing of our discernment. To mature our discernment is to know what yes and what no. So again, to help me not to lose time, not to waste experiences with something that does not correspond to me. And to try to avoid this not continuing something, because it's so easy to start something new. Because then we have to restart again in the point where we left. So it's like a machine. It takes in a factory that takes us very quickly to a place, and then we have to come back to it again. This is not a criticism or a condemnation, but it's an invitation to search for something more sustainable, which is the spiritual search that comes from the inner world, that comes to the point where I am able to sustain on a level, and when I persist, I go from there to another level, and I go deeper and deeper until I feel that I came into contact with my inner world. And not only feeling that I did a practice or an exercise that gave me a benefit, immediate result, but did not trespass that limit of my bodily identity. How are we in front of our profound identity? In front, each one of us can ask, who am I in this moment? In front of the collective. How much does the collective consciousness has impacted in this moment our point of view about what I think about life? Where do I come from? Have we asked that? Where are we going? Do we have any level of aspiration for this? Or are we just in this collective process that is acting like the wind? And when we talk about spirituality, many practices or groups, sometimes they take us because the results are so easy. They promise us so many things. Do this and you'll have this. But spirituality, is this it? Again, what we find in our external life, are we dealing well with it from that practice? How is my consciousness in front of this? A question arrived here that I will share from this sharing Be Still Part 2, and the person was asking, now it appears that there is not only good and bad, that maybe that's a part of a very ample concept that we will not study today. But in the middle of this appears to be something else. The person felt that there's something like inertia and identifies something that is not so good or bad in his or her conception. And today, especially in the last years or decades, making this first point of transformation very difficult, turning it very difficult, is a very important point of what we call chaos. Some of us who are a little bit more older, we can perceive that in between the good and the not so good, the bad and not so bad, in our conception, in a certain moment, there was something else circulating. There were a few more possibilities of transformation. But in this such complex time that we're living, a new element came in, which is the element of chaos. And apparently the task of chaos is to make even more difficult for the good in the conception of each one, can touch the bad in the comprehension of bad of each one of us, and to help it to transform. I repolarize. Do you follow me? But when chaos, in the condition that has been created in the planet, appears as if everything transformed into chaotic, and transformation is very, very difficult to go into those poles of what is good and not so good, and continuously creating dissociation. Do you agree with this on a certain level? So this is a very complex time. We only need to know what's good for us, what is good for us definitely, what's good for us, and what definitely is destructive or no good, as we wish to call it. But in between, we will observe a chaos, something confusing, something extremely dispersed and dissociative. And why are we mentioning this in this context? It's because spirituality, in this moment, could help us to elevate our consciousness, to look at chaos from a different place. Because this chaos especially acts on the mental plane and the emotional plane and lower. When we are in this process of transformation and discernment and persistence, searching for something deeper, in that our consciousness is elevated and we can touch what we know as the intuitive world. It's a level that is also within us, remembering the good news. But generally, we do not dedicate any time, patience, even, to try to understand what is the language of this intuitive world with us. What is the symbolic language with us? So going towards the end of our sharing, we're going to talk about a dream, or dreaming, the time of sleeping. So at the time that we sleep, at the time when we go to bed, do we give ourselves the space and the opportunity not only to physically rest, but to give ourselves that moment in which we're also alive, a different importance. The point is that with this irritation that we live in, and from the screens, all the impulses, in general, we migrate to the time of the sleep or the evening. Many impulses that we do not know where they came from exactly. What was the objective with us? And it generates a type of chaos in our consciousness. We know this, right? We have to discern if we're going to give attention to that search within us, or if we're continuing searching something on the screens And when we turn them off, then we ask ourselves, well, and what was left with me from everything that I looked today? What stayed with me truly? From everything, what is part of my search? What is part of my true path? What is this constructing in me? What was the purpose of all this? I am not saying not to look at technology. I look at it. But we have to discern and give the right proportion and try to remember a sense of life. Is this taking me towards that sense of life? In a previous sharing, I spoke about a very simple practice that could be done not only at night, it could be done at any moment. But if we do it in the middle of this confusion of impulses, eventually we will not reach the certain point, the correct point. We will not absorb what could have brought us, which is the following. When the time comes, when we are on a bus or in the metro and we're going to be on a trip, and in a certain time, a certain moment, we close our eyes and we observe in our mental screen, in our inner mental screen, what color emerges, or what colors, in plural, emerge. In classic spirituality, one of these lines of anthroposophy, color is something like a grouping of the fire of space. The colors are not physical. The origin of color is in the astral plane. That at the same time is like it crystallizes, or we can get as that we in the esoteric world knows as the fire of space. In analogy, the plants, the resin is the condensation of the fire of the space, and is creating that ignic material that later comes together, smells, properties, so comes from a superphysical place. And color is also part of that process. In the human case of our constitution, our astral body is very contaminated with human emotions, especially those low ones, the reactions, very human and low. So it has a place that is inside of you that have superior feelings. So inside us, on the astral, we have a place that is a place of the superior feelings. And we eventually open ourselves, if we wish, before we fall asleep, when we go to bed. We can observe the screen in our mind. We do it spontaneously. We do not direct the process. So what color does spontaneously emerges and presents in front of us, in front of this mental screen? And we're going to feel that this places us immediately in a place of observation. And when we come out of this, when we come out of the mind process of controlling and migrate to the place of observation, we immediately open our inner field to live a oniric experience, a bit more constructive, and eventually not so mixed with all the collective elements. So let's say I close my eyes at night, in the time of my sleep, and I try in a very spontaneous way to observe if on my mental screen emerges a color or more than one color. If the colors are accompanied by some shapes, if it's more than a color, how do those colors communicate? Are those circles? Is a diffuse color and a rectangle? Is there a line and a sphere? You see? So there's not any right way. It's just a practice in itself. So you said about practice, and now you're giving us a practice. Yes, but this is a practice that helps us to contact our inner world. If we persist in this type of exercise that is very simple, we will observe that we not only start to discover this place of perspective inside of us, but also how the feeling of the superior feeling expands. The mechanism of coming in contact with the surrounding reality also starts to expand. And very naturally, we will see, if we persist with this type of offering before we go to bed, when we go to sleep, this relationship with happens around, we will see that we do not react as much, but it will have a feeling of understanding, of compassion. We're more open to listening more than reacting. It's a very simple exercise. And the second exercise that we can live in the time of the night, everything to be able to give the night an opportunity to give our deep consciousness the possibility to be less conditioned on the astral plane, from the mental plane, from ideas and impulses and arguments, concepts, and a little bit more rapidly to take refuge in a deeper way, in a deeper place. Can you see? So the exercise is the following. We observe when we are a little bit more, we're not so close to external impulses, if a verb emerges in our consciousness. A verb that represents an action, right? A verb is something that moves action. So here we have to be very careful not to mentally generate, to do it in a way that becomes artificial. So we have to be receptive and just ask, is there anything in my consciousness that eventually and very spontaneously will emerge, a verb? So first, what importance does it have spiritually? The possibility of neutralizing an anxiety that our consciousness has of doing something. So, let's see, for example, we are in the middle of this exercise and the verb to understand emerges. If it comes spontaneously, maybe it's a key to tell us that we have to understand more. Do you follow the exercise? See, the verb that comes is to discern, to love, to feel. And in another way, eventually when a verb emerges that causes us a certain concern, maybe we do not filter it from the place of concern, or we don't see it through the lens of concern, but maybe our consciousness is trying to remind us of something. In a certain movement during the day, we say, for example, we had a very critical day. We have been criticizing, judging. Then suddenly the verb emerges to understand and not the verb to judge. And lately, and last, a type of action emergence through a verb that is exactly that which is we have to release so that our consciousness, our deep consciousness, can go into deep sleep and go to a more unknown level, less conditioned by a certain action of what we did that day or what we left undone and it was important to do. For those paths, because there are only two paths in between so many, the time that is previous to our sleep, it would be good to have a paper, a pen, and so we can make notes at the same time, at the same moment, or maybe the next day when I went to bed, the color orange arrived, then the blue came, and then I fell asleep. I don't remember anymore. Next day, I make notes. I saw a sphere, color silver, or it had a blue and a dégradé, and I make notes. And this is to open a path with a relationship with our inner world, because many times during the day we have many indications that come through symbolic life, and sometimes with colors and numbers. Sometimes I look at the clock and it says 2020 on the license plate of a car, 1414 AA. Maybe life is communicating with us. Even I go to Google and say, well, what does 2020 mean? Certainly there probably is an answer already, but for me, in that moment, what is 2020? Some people say always when I look at the clock, it always says 1313. What does it mean? In this profound life that we call spirituality, is thirsty of coming in contact with us, our human aspect. But we haven't really given the attention and the time that eventually we could have given. And daily, we truly lose. We waste a lot of opportunities, and believe me, there are many times the opportunity to discover a little bit more of who we are. There's somebody showing us 1313, and then always I look at a rose in a building, and in that number, the name that appears many times in the day, or sometimes in the sleep. I'm always dreaming something that repeats. There's a symbol there. Our interior life, that spirituality, is trying to communicate with us. This is a very ample topic. Let's listen now if there's anybody who has a question. You can also send the questions to the email. This is the email. Friar Luciano, questions in Portuguese, at irdin.org. And also the sharings that are broadcasted every 15 days through the Irdin channel in YouTube. You can also ask questions in the chat, and we make notes so that in the next sharing we will consider them and answer them. So anybody who's present here wants to ask anything or make a comment about something? Always in this way of inner growth. Hello, thank you for the sharing, Friar Luciano. My question is about the chaos that you've been talking about before. I would like to know your opinion about if chaos could be provoked by the demons that are here in the world, and that he could be here on the earth could be a battle between chaos and order, being the order characteristic of human being and chaos characteristic of these demons that do not have order even to create themselves a body. Thank you. Important question. We do know in the deep part of ourselves, we do know that an order exists. We know that there's something that conducts everything. It doesn't matter what name we give it. God, universe, unique consciousness, something that is deeper to our own experience on the first person. But intuitively, we do not know, we know that it exists. What's your name? Alberto. So we know that exists in a certain way. And not only do we innerly know, but our bodies, our material bodies, experiment this truth through the rhythm, through order, through equilibrium. All our functions exist in between an order from which we do not have control, right? We can't control our heartbeats, for example. So, surely, as you affirm, the planet is living, yes, a true battle. This would be a topic of another sharing of what exists in this planet. In a different sharing that is in this same channel, I spoke a little bit about this. We call what you call demons as involutive forces. If we look at it from a graphic point of view, in a certain moment, creation, we were created. We are still going through this involutive arc. We came out of immateriality from divine consciousness or God, as you wish. We came into the arc, the descending arc of individualization. Can you follow me? In that process, we are experimenting the distance in between the vision of that unity, and we become characterized by an individual, non-dissociated but separated from that consciousness of unity. And the planet also experiments this, not only humanity. Our planet is in the moment where it's reaching that maximum point of its materialization, of its way of return. The way of return, or the ascending arch. So in that process of materiality, us as humans, we do not only experience all of this as consciousness, but our particles in the universe experiment also this process of dissociating from that unique consciousness. So these particles that we call involutive do not have the vision that they are part of a unity. So I say it again. The particles, just like something in us, we do not have consciousness of the whole. We are part of a whole, or of this order, no? To use the word that you used. So the battle, going back to the term that you used, is that many human beings and many forces, including demoniac forces, are part of this descending arc and do not have consciousness that they are part of God or part of a whole, part of creation, or part of this order. So definitely there's a battle, and we experiment it daily, even in each breathing, because our matter, physical and etheric, astral and mental, is conformed by particles that they do not have any consciousness that are part of something broader, something greater. Was I able to explain myself? How to resolve this? I do not know if there's an individual solution to this. In the process of inner integrity, and what is this? To try to align and integrate to the maximum my inner levels and bodies, because from that fourth dimension, or from my intuitive level, I start to have a different consciousness of this whole in which I am part of. So this battle, you can feel it. And technology is very used at the moment to make that chaos happen. So, Alberto, I think that in my comprehension, there are two perspectives about the topic of the chaos. One, this one, which is part of creation. We are in this transition from this chaos to a way of return to this unity. And the other perspective, negative consciousnesses and involutive that really exist, are even technically called asuras. They manipulate all the consciousnesses that are not in contact with their inner world, and they are manipulated so that they can nourish and feed the chain of chaos. This is why the importance about the collective. The collective is turning, does not even know where it's from, the impulse, where did it come from, and it's turning, spinning, wearing out. But the good news is that the spirituality of today, I understand, aligns us and vitalizes so that we have this inner re-encounter that is going to give us a strength, not to detach, not from a feeling of superiority, but we will create a feeling of unity from where I will look at this chaos, but I'm not going to get involved with it, and I'm not going to be taken by it. I will be able to give the best that I can, like this moment that we're sharing. We are helping us, we're helping each other with this your receptivity for something evolutive, not only who's speaking. But surely there's a lot of manipulation. And as our master, Jesus, there's a lot of wolves in the skin of sheep, even, unfortunately, in spiritual environments. Because despair is so big, obscurity, darkness has reached so many places, so easy in another way. So it comes specifically because of gratification, also spiritual. So it offers us relief for our suffering. But if the spirit is bringing me suffering, sometimes it's doing it so that I can learn something. Suffering, maybe it's an interpretation, right? But when we have experienced what we call suffering, and now we can affirm that without that, I will not be who I am now. I would be just like anyone else. I would be just walking a bit lost, almost hardly making it. Roberto, this is a very profound topic, but I think I have been able to give a little reflection on it. I am going to ask a question about your question. How do I know if I'm being manipulated? It can be a good question, no? How not to be manipulated. I'm not asking you, I'm using your question to ask another question. How do we stop being manipulated? I am going to help with the reflection. How are we going to stop being manipulated? We have to find that place within us. This is why spirituality is so simple. Because if we go to that place that is beyond our concrete mind and more towards our personal identity only, and really we have been able to awaken on a certain level that we are part of something larger, that is not only my interests are important, but the other kingdoms of nature and creation also, I care for it, then I will rise my level and manipulation is not going to come and touch me because something inside of me is vigilant. Do you follow me? Something inside of me says, up to here. You're coming into the yellow line, and from here, this is my interior, and I do not allow it. But if we are not in this intense search, this is why transformation, discernment, and persistence, if we do not direct this topic to this place, this matter to, so do we have to open our, leave everything else? No, we're not talking about this, but everything that collaborates with this inner search needs to be done. What's essential is that in me, there's this strength that is going to take me to a place and is going to refine my perception of the frequency when another frequency arrives, and immediately I put my hands out. Did you ever go to a live concert? I'm asking. A live band, a music concert, and when somebody's out of tune and the director listens and says, is that saying here, guitar, violin, it's out of tune. This tuning, the sensibility, is what spirituality today needs to take us to that point of sensibility where we will not allow ourselves to be manipulated or to enter the coordinate of chaos. The worst that can happen is to get involved with that chaos, to lose the possibility to see that the things that in us we have not been able to transform for so many reasons, but there is a path of transformation. I can touch this place within me, but we are in that coordinate of chaos. Is as if then in chaos, then we don't have the will to do anything. We don't want to continue, and that is the trap that we should not follow into when we are hopeless. Is there anything else? Well, when we're finished, then all the questions come. There's a very simple question I need to ask, which is also in that which you have answered about lying, truth and lie, that duality that is so exaggeratedly marked, that is now in society, and is so difficult and so easy to follow into, absolutely, in lying and truth. The word truth. They are very big words. Truth, the word reality are very big words. I will not try to say or dare to say what's real, because if it exists, what is true for me? What is my reference of reality? Something temporary? Something that passes through? That I enjoy, even I can enjoy, or that I even suffer? Or in a deeper truth, I am asking, for example, who am I? What's your name? Soledad. Well, Soledad, it's a nice name. In Portuguese, it's solidão. In that place within us of solitude. Well, Soledad, if we are directing our consciousness to that deeper search, we will always discern, we'll be able to discern what is true for us. You see, because it would be very unfair that for you, something is a lie, is no good, because it's not good for me. Let's give an example from the day-to-day. In therapeutic and medicine, I don't go to doctors because I'm a therapist. I do not believe in allopathic medicine. Yeah, but it could be good for somebody else, no? So this tuning of our vibration, of our inner sensibility, helps us to organize everything that is true to me, no, with small caps, and I direct these small things, truths in my life, to that search of life, which has a capital L, but with a lot of care, not to create spaces of fanatism, because that's another trap. That it's just because something is true for me, then it has to be true for everybody. Without a doubt, there's a place in this creation which is very mysterious, that needs to be true to all of us, a unique principle for all of us. But when it comes to the human beings, we have to tune very much our discernment to know what's good and what's not. Again, Soledad, for one, what's true for you. Because if I transfer or project for another person what is true for me, I'm risking to create a filter of limitation of the experience for the other person based on my perspective. Do you understand? It's a bit like an interference. Almost to say unjust. The other person has a need that I do not understand, I do not know. If I do not even know my own profound needs, even less do I know the needs of the other people. I think I was able to catch your question. If it's not like this, please tell me. In that experience of dreaming in the night, why don't you ask? Please show me. You're talking to your inner. You're not talking to a person or with a guru. You're talking with your own inner world. Please show me, give me a sign. What's my next step? What is true for me in this moment? What do I have to take as real and experiment in this moment? You will surprise yourself. And see, the trap that the world tries to confuse us, is that the answer will always come from outside. When we take even a small step in the direction of our inner world, this inner world that is always inside of us in this same moment will take 10 steps in our direction. It's only waiting for us, waiting for the interest that we show it. So if you ask yourself, don't ask me, but ask yourself, what is truth for me in this moment? If you direct yourself to your inner world and your soul for your deeper levels, sooner or later, you will start to have an answer. But if you fall in the trap to ask outside of you, many will come, many will call you, many answers will come, surely, and almost none will coincide with that will, with the good that we were talking with Alberto for your life. Because it's within. And after you consolidate that which is true for you and you try to live it, then you will remember what we have spoken of today from the good and evil and the chaos, and you will understand all of that so that you do not live the good that is in your heart. But opening that space within you for this harmony, for this order, for this almost ceremonial ritual of giving space and attention for your own profound consciousness, without any doubt, you will reach where you have to go. And later you will, one day, then you will tell me one day, when you are able to experiment that, when you are in a dark room, when you cannot see anything, and you're searching for the window, and one day you discover that you were in a dark room of the human egoic experience only, and suddenly the window opens and you see the horizon, which is your inner world. That is the true spirituality of your inner world, and not phenomenic experiences, knowledge, that eventually they're all paths. But if they do not take you to that point within you, chaos is going to swallow you. Well, is there any questions? Another question? From here I can see the little balloons on your heads. So, Frey, my question is that the permanent and constant work would be to be attentive of everything that distracts us from outside, is to remember that is also part of the unity and part of that creation. And that in truth, but we have to be permanently conscious that we are part of that. And to come out of that which distracts us. I think that everything that distracts us has a lot of strength and has that purpose of taking us away from that idea of being part of that creation. Yes, when we stop doing what we do not have to do, only that liberates our consciousness in a big way. And for what things? That creative space that emerges and exists in our consciousness in this exact moment. You don't have to go buy it at the shop. In this very moment where it's available, where our inner world will project. But for that, I have to decide on my priorities, which do I truly want to profoundly know myself, of what I'm part of, and what did I come to do in a human and in a spiritual way? Or if I'm only with curiosity, curiosity also has magnetism. We have to be very careful. Sometimes, did you ever go to the shopping mall, with a little thing and you came out with a big shopping cart? You were to buy just one thing and you came out with 3 big bags. So, do you understand, Alberto? We cannot play with involution. We cannot play with this chaos because there's a lot of manipulation. But when we stop to do what we do not have to do, we start to give a space in our consciousness, even in our aura, as we say. And in the evening, we start to discover many things that are already available. But as I said, we don't give them space. So rather than searching in my inner, and also in the exterior that comes and to help in this process, because it's going to fulfill that, to fill in this space of the sense of life, which if I'm searching that on a social network, well, I'm never going to find it. Not only I'm not going to find it, but the energy of that net, not only the information, but what is dealt there. Only in that network, so many things are flowing that it's just that it's contaminating us by itself. So again, my invitation is for you to discern. But to discern, I have to select my priorities and see this, to use the language that Alberto used of demoniac, that's something that traps us, and you try to come out and you can't. And then it becomes something automatic. So we have to be very careful. In a certain moment, we have to use that energy that we call will, and we turn it off. And it's like cutting with something and say, the trap that we fall into is that we think that we cannot disconnect with it. We think that from that technology the light will come, the light that we're searching for. Immaculada, do you want to say something? So when we're playing, she's correcting the word brincar that means to jump, and what the sense that he was trying to use is when we're actually just playing around. But in that channel of Irdin editorial has many sharings with a lot of information. So experience the colors, the topic of the verb, simply as that. We start to give our inner world a space so that it can speak to us. If not, it only keeps us observing from far and us debating in between so many things that are not conducting our consciousness to our true sense of life. Well, I hope you have a nice weekend. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. We will see each other in the next opportunity. Good night.